Uh, the capability to be able to freeze registration parts. Right, we don't have a freeze on the event. No, that's because the event is a lot smarter. So what we do have is a registration menu where you can determine what the registration recalls, right? And I think that's where there's some people may not understand some of the functionality of some of these features. So when you go into menu, I'm going to go there real quick. You see there's an icon called registration setup, regis setup right there. And you touch that registration setup. Now let me explain what this is. On the left side are your categories, and on the right side are the individual items within the categories that are selected. So right now we have the general category, which is yellow, which is on, and it tells you what are the things that the registration will recall. Okay, so in this case, the transpose value will be recalled, and the slider locations where your sliders are shall be recalled when you recall a registration. If you do not want the registration to recall the slider and you want it to maintain the value of the sliders as they are right now on the panel, you would turn the slider function off. Okay, so this is a very good example right here. This means that when you try to recall a registration, it will ignore wherever the slider values were, the digital value of the volumes. That shall be ignored. What will take precedence will be the location of the slider right now. So, which means that if your sliders are all the way down on 0, okay, and you made a registration where they were all the way up, if you recall that registration with the sliders down, you're not going to hear anything because the registration is not going to recall the value of the sliders when they were saved. It's going to take upon the current location of your sliders. Now, most people like this particular function like this because they want to be able to visually see their volumes as they're performing live. For other people, they don't want it this way because every registration may have a different volume. Some may have, the drums might be a little bit softer in one registration or one song setting, and in a particular rock and roll setting, the drums might be louder, and they want the machine to recall the volume levels the way they were saved during creation. In this case, you want the slider to be on, okay? Let's go to another category. If I go to the style category, now my style is selected here. On the right-hand side, it's telling me what are the characteristics, what are the features of the style that will be recalled when I recall a registration. When they're yellow, it means yes, it will be recalled. If it's not yellow, it means no, that will not be recalled. So in this example right now, you notice that everything here shall be recalled. If I go from one registration to another, it's going to recall these values. But let's just say, for an example, that I want to keep my drums consistent, regardless of how they were saved during the registration. I do not want to recall the drum levels as they were stored. I want them to remain consistent based on the drum selection here on my panel. Then I will turn off the drums because I don't want the drum setting to be recalled, the digital value of the drum setting to be recalled, okay? And this is again true for all of these. Voices, same thing. When I recall my voices, do I want the right-hand voice to be recalled or not? Maybe when you go from registration to registration, you want to maintain the same voice all night long. You don't want to have the registration change the voice the way it was saved. In that case, I would turn off that voice, okay? So these are all the settings. Play modes, again, what do you want the registration to recall? Whatever you want it to recall, you check and make sure it's yellow. Whatever you don't want it to recall, you uncheck and make sure it is white, okay? When you're done with this particular thing, page, you then press the save button and you now save your registration setup so that from here on forward, when you now recall your registrations, you've programmed the machine to either recall the values as they were done when they were created or to ignore them and have the recall to be based upon your live setting of your keyboard. Again, that's what professionals want, that's what professionals ask for, and that's what we gave to professional keyboard players. Now, amateurs might not find this funny, right? Because again, it seems like it might be too complicated, but in reality, as a professional keyboard, very few people buy the keyboard and use it the way it was out of the box, right? You always try to customize it for your purposes. Most amateur players would simply just want to buy the keyboard and just start playing with whatever is there. And that can also be the case with Event. You can have that capability, but you're not going to be that satisfied with it because it doesn't meet your needs. You have to be able to program and customize some of these settings based on your needs as an amateur player.